rules in the assessment of real property. So what are the rules in assessment? First, all real properties, whether taxable or exempted, shall be appraised at the current and fair market value prevailing in the locality where the property is situated or located. Next is the appraisal of the real property shall be based on the latest schedule of fair market value. So this is prepared by the provincial assessor or the city assessor or municipal assessor of municipality within the Metro Manila area as embodied in the ordinance passed by the Sangguniang Panlalawigan, Sangguniang Panglungsod, or Sangguniang Bayan of the Metro Manila area municipalities. The appraisal of real property that is being declared for the first time shall be listed, classified, and also valued on the basis of what we call this the schedule of fair market value. So, regardless of this land or building, and shall be subject to back taxes. So, that is if it is applicable, or not exceeding 10 years from the year of initial assessment. Thus, the property shall be liable to tax payment for a maximum of 11 years, including the current year. So the schedule of the values applicable for the corresponding periods shall be controlling. Then the rules for the assessment of lands. Lands actually and principally, it is being used for our residential, if it is for agricultural, commercial, industrial, or mineral purposes, shall be classified and valued according to the schedule of unit-based market values and assessed at their corresponding levels of assessments, which shall be fixed through an ordinance by sangguniang concern. And part of the rules of assessment of lands, a lot or parcel land which classified and appraised as our commercial or industrial occupied by a building used both for residential or commercial or industrial purposes. So this one should be assessed on the basis of the predominant use of the building or the buildings. So if you can notice now, there are properties that there is a residential purposes in the second or third floor. So we need to determine what is the predominant use. It is commercial. Does the whole property is being used for commercial or for residential? So if the predominant use of the building is residential, the assessment level fixed thereon for residential shall be applied on the market value of the lot or parcel, which is determined on the basis of the schedule of base market values. If industrial or a commercial, the assessment level for industrial or commercial shall be applied on the basis of the schedule of base market values. And last is the vacant land. Vacant lands shall be assessed like similar lands in the locality. Fifth is the lands owned by local water districts and government-owned or controlled corporations rendering essential public services in the supply and distribution of water and or generation and transmission of electric power located in residential, commercial, or industrial area shall be assessed as a what we call the special property at 10%. Assessment level applied to the market value. So, if those special classes of lands are, however, located in areas of mixed land uses, such as residential with commercial or industrial, the predominant use of the land in that area of those special classes of land shall be assessed at the corresponding levels of assessment. The sixth, under the rules of assessment of lands. So the lands actually directly or exclusively used for religious, charitable, or educational purposes that is located in residential, commercial, or industrial area shall be assessed on residential, commercial, or industrial as the case may be. If those lands actually directly or exclusively used for religious, charitable, or educational purposes. However, located in an area of mixed land use, such as residential with commercial or industrial, excuse me, the predominant use of the land in that area shall govern for the assessment of those lands that were mentioned that are being used for the religious, charitable, and educational purposes. Then, next is under the rules in the assessment of real property is reclassifying land to other uses. First, the following are the procedures in what we call reclassifying the land to other uses. If the land is converted into other uses, for example, class now in agricultural to residential, residential to commercial, made known to the assessor in writing by the owner shall be inspected for confirmation of the actual condition, use of the property. Then a report of the actual condition of the property and the recommendation thereof shall be rendered by the responsible personnel of the provincial or city assessor's office. In the case of a province, by municipal assessor. And such report shall be submitted within 15 working days after the inspection in accordance with the policy as may be prescribed by the provincial or the city assessor. So, among others, the report may contain the information regarding tangible land improvement, land leveling, and compaction, and then construction of roads, the networks, the drainage, and other relevant land amenities. So it can be visible, no, for the inspectors. And what the inspector can be seen in the area, that will be included to his or her report. And in all other cases, under the local finance, in circular number 392, dated way back September 11, 1992, shall be controlling in reclassifying the agricultural lands to non-agricultural uses. So in this matter class, I will check further for the updates and I will include to our class. There is something that uh, recent recent updated regulations regarding this matter. And also, a DALI approved the zoning ordinance also serves as basis in the reclassification of lands. The zoning ordinance. This is very important. Next, next topic is listing of real property for the imposition of real property tax. First, preparation and maintenance of what we call the assessment roll. So the provincial or the city municipal assessor, they shall be the one to prepare and maintain an assessment roll, wherein all the taxable real properties located within his province or in city or municipality shall be listed, except in cases where the assessor's records are computerized as and the same are directly and operationally connected with the provincial, the city, or municipal treasurer in the form of what we call the local area network. A separate role shall be prepared for exempt the properties for ready reference. And part of the preparation and maintenance of the assessment role, number one is real property shall be listed and valued in the name of the owner or administrator or anyone having the legal interest in the real property. Number two is that the undivided real property of the deceased person may be listed and also valued in the name of the estate or the heirs and the leases without designating them individually. And undivided real property other than the owned by the deceased may be listed and valued in the name of one or more co-owners, provided that such heirs or co-owners shall be liable severally for all obligations that is imposed by the code and for the payment of the real property tax with respect to the undivided property. Okay, so part of the preparation and maintenance is number three, the real property or a corporation. If there is a partnership, association, shall be entered and assessed in the same manner as that of an individual. The real property owned by the Republic of the Philippines, its political subdivisions, and any government owned or controlled corporations, so exempt by its charter, the beneficial use of which has been granted for consideration or otherwise to a taxable person, shall be listed for purposes of what we call taxation in the name of the grantee or the public entity if such property has been acquired for resale or lease. Okay, so part of the listing of real property for the imposition of real property tax is the cancellation of assessments in case there are several assessments are made on one property. So in this scenario, let's examine what's uh, cancellation assessment. So in case the several assessments are made on one or and the same property, the duty of the assessor is to cancel all the assessments except the one property or the one that is properly made. However, if any assessee or his representative shall object to the cancellation of the assessment that was made in his name, such assessment shall not be cancelled, but the fact shall be noted on the field appraisal and assessment sheet, and also the tax declaration, the assessment rolls, and other property books of record. So the preference, however, shall be given to the assessment of the person who has the best title to the property, or in default thereof, of the person who has possession of the property. And when two persons have declared in their names the same property or a portion thereof, and were issued corresponding tax declarations, a notation shall be made on the face of each tax declaration, and other corresponding um, FA is AS. The fact that the property or part thereof is also declared in the name of other person. Next, exemptions from the real property tax. So the following are exempted from real property tax. Number one is the constitutional provisions. So for those who are in charitable institutions, our churches and parsonages or convents, appurtenant thereto, mosque and non-profit cemeteries, and all the lands, buildings, and improvements that are actually or directly and exclusively used for religious, charitable, or educational purposes shall be exempt from taxation. Okay, next is the statutory provisions. So, a real property owned by the Republic of the Philippines or any of its political subdivisions, except when the beneficial use thereof has been granted for consideration or otherwise to a taxable person. Then the exemption shall cover properties owned by the Republic of the Philippines or any of its political subdivisions such as provinces, cities, municipalities, and barangays, the beneficial use of which has not been granted for uh, consideration or otherwise to a taxable person. And also the under the provision, the real property that is owned by the Republic of the Philippines or any of its political subdivisions, provinces, cities, municipalities, and barangays shall be declared in the name of the Republic of the Philippines or such political subdivision, with the beneficial user listed as administrator. Next, charitable institutions, churches, as I mentioned earlier. So all the machineries and equipments that are actually directly and exclusively used by local water districts and government-owned or controlled corporations who are engaged in the supply and distribution of water and or generation and transmission of electric power. And also all real property that is owned by duly registered cooperatives as provided for under RA 6938. So, exempt as provided herein any exemption from payment of real property tax previously granted to or presently enjoyed by all persons, whether natural or juridical, including all government-owned or controlled corporations, are hereby withdrawn upon the effectivity of the Code RA 7160. Thus, the real property that is owned by the government, owned or controlled corporations, is now taxable whether or not there is beneficial user. And if property is taxable on January 1, it is liable to taxation for the whole year, even if afterwards it becomes exempt. In the same manner, if the property is exempt on January 1, it is exempt for the whole year, even if it becomes taxable afterwards. So, what are the proof of exemption of real property from taxation? Okay, so every person by or for whom the real property is declared, who shall claim tax exemption for such property, shall file with the provincial, the city, or municipal assessor within 30 days from the date of the declaration of real property sufficient documentary evidence that it will support of such claim, including corporate charters, our title or ownership, articles of incorporation, our bylaws, the contracts, the affidavits, everything that can support your claim for the documents that are being required. And if the required evidence is not submitted within the period that is being prescribed, the property shall be listed as taxable in the assessment roll. Okay, so that's how important to be keen to the timelines. However, if the property shall be given to be tax exempt, the same shall be dropped from the assessment roll. And also, the exemptions are never presumed. The burden is on the claimant to establish clearly his right for exemption, and an alleged grant of exemption will be strictly construed and cannot be made by inference or implication, but must be beyond reasonable doubt. So that's why you should have the complete set of documents to support that claim. Since taxation is the rule and exemption is exception, the intention of the exempt must be expressed in clear and unambiguous terms. Okay, class. So for our reference, you may check the Manual on Real Property Appraisal and Assessment Operations by the Department of Finance. So that's the end class of my lecture. So I hope that you have gained something uh, in this lesson for you to improve your